tomorrow, yesterday, it's all the same for little Pennywise.
It Welcome to Derry Season 1 is now final, and we know for sure that it's been greenlit for another 2 seasons, but what does that actually mean? Spoilers ahead for this show, so if you haven't finished up, you've been warned. Welcome to Real Enigmas and Theories. Let's get right into this. So there's a lot to unpack about this show, but in this video, we're going to stick to certain aspects of what this show actually accomplished, the trajectory moving forward, and the already established lore throughout the King Multiverse. Yes, I said multiverse. I broke some of this down in my finale video, which I'll leave a link to at the end of this one. So without further ado, let's cook. I'll start off by saying that arguably one of the best Stephen King adaptations, I think It Welcome to Derry is the best It product that we've gotten out of all the It adaptations. Not just because it's one of the craziest horror TV shows out there, not even the acting, not the new characters or the emotion that it brought, even the symbolism. For me, it was how this show actually functions in the King Multiverse. This show managed to connect the It story to the other King material in a way that we all felt and knew was there. Dick Hallorann was already mentioned in the It novel as a cook at the Black Spot who helped some of the victims escape. But you also have the Dr. Sleep, which showed us a side of Danny Torrance that we got to see in Hallorann during the It Welcome to Derry. Hallorann drank and abused alcohol in the same way grown-up Danny did in Dr. Sleep. Now, Dr. Sleep released in the same year as It Chapter 2, and that's important for later on in this video. But this connection pretty much fills in the gaps with the fact that Hallorann went through the same thing as Danny with the alcohol abuse, and it gives us a flashback of Hallorann telling a young Danny Torrance to recreate this power box that he used to store his demons and his powers. And we saw that in the Dr. Sleep movie. Now, this connection is important because Hallorann's power box was still open at the end of It Welcome to Derry, and we also know that Hallorann plans to head out to the Overlook Hotel at some point after the events of It Welcome to Derry. So just that alone lets us know Pennywise opened the box, Hallorann is plagued by the ghost, Rose gives him the maturing root that actually helps him, he battles Pennywise, he heads to the Overlook with the box still open, but he's able to manage it. And that's valuable information because it makes you automatically ask the question, did Hallorann ever get the box closed again? And it also leaves a clear pathway to a story about Hallorann getting to the Overlook and if he ends up closing that box again, or does that box have anything to do with the ghost that we see at the Overlook? I said it about 20 times during this series, we need the Hallorann spinoff. So here's where the multiverse comes in. Hallorann is mentioned in the novel as a cook at the Black Spot. Now, a point was made in the Welcome to Derry show for one of his buddies to suggest making a kitchen in the back. And I believe that was a nod to Hallorann being a cook in the novel. In It Chapter 2, Ben had a picture from the library that showed the Black Spot in 1962. Now, Andy Muschietti directed both It chapters in 2017-2019 along with the Welcome to Derry series. So this isn't trivial because as we can see, the Black Spot from the movie in 2019 looks nothing like the Black Spot that we see in It Welcome to Derry. And It Welcome to Derry was marketed as an actual prequel to the 2019 movie. Now, in the Welcome to Derry, during that airplane scene with the slingshot, Hallorann enters the mind of It, and Pennywise didn't know who Hallorann was.
Who are you?
How could that be true if It can experience time differently and knows the outcome of events? Then how would you not know the guy who saved the people in the Black Spot? How is it that Pennywise, who sees past, present, and future, doesn't know who Dick Hallorann is? That's crazy. But let's back up a second. Margie was not one of the people who Hallorann saved. And they made a specific point to show this when the building started collapsing on fire and it stopped him from saving Richie and Margie. And if the plan was to stop Richie Tozier from being born, why not get Margie at the black spot? I mean, he was in there eating people and he did show up to Ronnie. Why didn't he show up and get Margie if that was his actual objective? I'll have the answer for you a little bit later. Now let's look at the black spot for a second. The novel describes the black spot being outside of Derry and actually built by the soldiers out of scrap lumber. And the 2019 Muschietti film shows the black spot in the downtown location. And in the background, you can hear Eddie explaining that the black spot was burned down by a racist cult. And that cult specifically is the main Legion of White Decency, not some ragtag angry mob that gathered together at the local pub. There was no mention about a lynching or Hank Grogan or anything like that. And if the burning of the black spot was achieved, then surely the narrative about Hank Grogan would have been somewhere tied to it being in the news report or him dying in that fire. I mean, this is coming from the same director, and Welcome to Derry is a prequel to that movie. And some may say that it was just a creative flip by the production, but why such a crucial detail? And whatever the reason, Pennywise tells Margie directly that the past, present, and future are all the same to little Pennywise. And he tells her this in the same series that changed that crucial detail. Also, the same series where Pennywise had no idea who Halloran was and tried to take him out immediately by making him walk out of that plane. And what that says to me is Welcome to Derry is the original timeline. This is the timeline where Veronica Grogan makes it out of Derry, because in the novel, Veronica, or Ronnie, is heard by Beverly in her drain as a child that it killed in a previous cycle. And in the 2019 movie, Beverly hears Veronica in the bathroom sink drain again.
Hello? Who are you?
So how is Veronica Grogan this character named Ronnie that we actually see make it out of Derry? It's because Veronica was in the original timeline and she made it out in the original timeline. And timelines after that, it got her. And that had everybody thinking that Ronnie was gonna die in this series, but they flipped it on you. But did they actually flip it, or was it an alternate timeline? Let's keep going. Now, these are details that wouldn't be skipped over in a prequel that would show us Beverly at the end with the same actress. I mean, think about it. Why skip over those details, then go through the trouble of showing us the same Beverly from the Muschietti films in It Welcome to Derry as a cliffhanger, pretty much? Pennywise saying that he experiences time concurrently and things changing to create different versions is not just simply him bearing witness to the same events over and over again. I believe he can actually change things. But he's not the only one that can change things. The children and the people can also change things.
You haven't changed anything yet.
And this is why we see it using the Pennywise form before the existence of Bob Gray. Now, Muschietti is the director of Welcome to Derry, and we hear Pennywise say that he can experience time concurrently, but he's also the director of the film that literally shows us Pennywise at the signing of the Derry Charter and the mention of a clown being seen at the Derry logging riots. And both of those events are before the Bob Gray even existed or he was even thought of. And these are details that would not be skimmed over during a prequel that uses the post-credit scene to connect both of those films together. This proves that Welcome to Derry is the original timeline. And I'll even have more proof for you by the end of this video. But let's just start off with this fact right here. Not only did he not know who Dick Halloran was, but this is the same timeline that he also noticed how the children were drawn to Bob Gray. And that is something that it would have known if he could see past, present, and future at once. Another example of that timeline would be when Pennywise showed up at the signing of the Derry Charter before Bob Gray was even born, and at the Derry logging riots as well, as I mentioned. Both of these events were before Bob Gray was even born, yet Pennywise still shows up. Those timelines would be timelines where he had already observed Bob Gray's magnetism with the Pennywise dancing clown routine. So the events of It Welcome to Derry are definitely showing us the original timeline. The timeline where he first realized the magnetism with Pennywise the dancing clown, and the timeline where he didn't know who Halloran was. But he never forgets a smell, right? This leans into the statement that he made to Marge when he said he wasn't sure if the losers brought him his death or his birth. And that takes us into a deeper part of this theory that's also revealed in the show. Pennywise spoke of himself as a child. Now, throughout the Muschietti works, we've seen Pennywise come in the form of a baby several times. When the losers kill him in the 2019 film, he turns into a baby. We also see all types of different forms that he's taken throughout the years. But a point was made to show him appearing as young Wingstop with Maddie and in the theater, along with the shots of him killing Sesky with that little poop nugget baby coming out that priest form. I mean, that one was totally unexpected for me. I thought it was cool to show us what the natives had to deal with, but then we seen another baby coming out of the priest's chest, and that's who actually stabbed Sesky. And I'm calling that baby Little Poop Nugget. Nah, for real. But the birthing symbolism is directly tied to Margie and what we see Pennywise saying to her. So Margie went on to actually marry a Tozier, have a son, and name him Richie, knowing exactly what Pennywise said to her. But check this out. In It Chapter 2, the restaurant scene mirrors some of the same forms that we seen Pennywise use in It Welcome to Derry. Another little crazy looking baby hops up out of that first fortune cookie. And then the eyeball fortune cookie is right in front of Richie, mirroring what happened to his mother with her eye. And then you also get the winged fortune cookie flying around the room like Pennywise's final form in the show. But that could also be pointing at young Wingstop because he had wings. The birthing or rebirthing symbolism is consistent, and it always shows through Pennywise or one of its forms. And all of this is the OG timeline because none of these baby forms appear in the novel or the Tim Curry miniseries from the 90s. So I guess you could say that birthing symbolism also represents the birthing of this original timeline. So some of you might be asking yourself, if this is the OG timeline, at what point did it branch off? And the answer to that would be Margie surviving the Black Spot fire and Halloran saving her on the frozen lake. Had not Halloran entered the mind of Pennywise right when Pennywise lunges at Margie, she would have been a goner. And the reason why Pennywise didn't target her at the Black Spot was because he didn't realize she was the target until after Richie saves her. Because Margie being saved prompts her becoming Richie's mother. And after the fact, Pennywise ensures this by telling Marge her married name and her son's name. Why would he do that? And moreover, why would she follow the plan? She could have easily named that baby Clifford, Calvin, or Curtis. This indicates that she remembered what he said and wanted to ensure her son and his friends killed Pennywise. But the reason Pennywise told her is because it actually brings his birth and furthers the new branch of the timeline.
Filthy friends bring me my death. Or is it birth? I get confused.
Pennywise needed the timeline to go into that direction, so that's why he told Marge her destiny, because the Losers Club never really killed Pennywise. Remember, Pennywise just turns into a baby, and they couldn't kill him because they didn't have all of the Losers Club there. Stanley was gone before they reunited, so all the losers really did was prevent 2 auguries in a row. They prevented both auguries from the Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 movies. And those auguries is what gives Pennywise more power to not only sleep, but still infect the town through the discharge through those 26 years. Remember, He sleeps for 26 years, he wakes up and feeds for a year, and each augury is actually 27 years apart. Now let's look. Pennywise is capable of shape-shifting, reality warping, illusions, hallucination projection, telepathy, mind reading, invisibility, teleportation, levitation, superhuman strength and speed. He can manifest objects, voice mimicry, regeneration, immortality, the deadlights, and control of a human proxy. He can also disguise himself as a real human with identity absorption. And with all of that, he can also experience past, present, and future concurrently. So there's no way that these people really stopped him. He stayed in Derry on purpose, because Pennywise isn't just experiencing time differently, he's actually traveling through time and changing events. And yes, the deadlights are the true form, but there's definitely a physical element. Pennywise is real and can take real damage. I mean, we've read about it in the novel and we've seen it in every adaptation from the 90s miniseries all the way to It Welcome to Derry. And because of his nature as a Todash entity, him bringing the physical element in is why the blood floats away when he takes damage. Pennywise and all of the physical forms are just like the Dandelo from the Dark Tower. And with the deadlights being from the Todash darkness, the deadlights are from a place outside of spatial time. However, Pennywise and all of its forms are real, physical beings that can travel to and from those visual realities, change those realities, manifest objects into reality, and even bring them from the minds of its victims. I mean, bro's going right in your mind and taking your fears and making them a reality in front of your face. And those fears can also take damage, just like when we seen young Rose hit that Skelly man with the slingshot. And since the original power source comes from outside of our reality, Pennywise can use that to bring everything around it into a time ripple. When you see those leaves on the trees growing older and falling off the tree, that was Pennywise speeding up time to winter so that the river could freeze over. Everywhere the fog went was experiencing winter. And the Penobscot River in reality freezes over in winter anyway. And Pennywise brought his red suit and snatched up the naughty children on some Krampus type vibe. And I know a lot of people think that that was a stretch, that Pennywise is actually speeding up time around him through that fog. But think about it. Even the episode itself was called Winter Fire. And if you didn't notice, Pennywise was the exact inverted opposite of Sesky's war painted face, where she had her war painted face painted red from the nose up, and he was painted red from the nose down. I talked a little bit about the red suit in the King Multiverse in my finale video as well. But Pennywise can travel through time just like Randall Flagg from the Dark Tower. And Randall Flagg can also slow down or accelerate time just like we see Pennywise doing with the fog. And both are entities of the Prim. Now here's another clue to the multiverse. The ritual of Chud. Halloran literally performs the ritual of Chud on Pennywise right before he lunged at Margie. Stop bro dead in his tracks. And Rose didn't tell him to do this. She never even mentions the ritual of Chud. He actually got the idea from Leroy, because this was in fact the second time Halloran performed the ritual. The first time was back in the airplane when Pennywise didn't even know who he was before he'd even met any of the natives. Now, the novel describes the ritual as a cosmic battle of wills between a human and it, played out on a metaphysical plane that exists outside of normal reality. And this ritual is also explained in the Chapter 2 movie directed by Muschietti. It's a psychic confrontation where two beings lock consciousness. So why don't any of the natives in It Welcome to Derry mention this ritual? We've seen their meetings several times and there was no mention of the ritual, and there was no mention of the ritual to Halloran by Rose when she gave him the Maturin root or anything. She just told him that she would be able to give them the root so that he could locate that dagger. It was nothing about the ritual of Chud with those natives. It's almost as if the ritual of Chud didn't exist yet. And we know it was the ritual of Chud because Halloran even slapped Pennywise around a couple times and had him questioning life itself. And had not the military took Halloran out that van, he probably would have been able to do more damage to him. Halloran was able to do things that he wouldn't have been able to do in the physical world, and that changed things. Because Halloran definitely, none of them, I'm sure, would be able to just slap Pennywise around the way Halloran did. That was the ritual of Chud. Now, how does that connect to being a part of the original timeline? When Beverly was taken into the Deadlights in It Chapter 1, she was able to see things from the past, present, and future. In the future that she saw was the death of the Losers Club's members. And that made It Chapter 2 all about stopping the death of the Losers Clubs from what Beverly saw in the Deadlights. So why does the ritual of Chud happen in the other works of the It universe? And my theory for this is probably something that we're going to see in season 2 or 3 of It Welcome to Derry. But the theory is that one of the natives had probably been taken in by the Deadlights, and just like Beverly, they saw the confrontation between Pennywise and Halloran. Then they ended up escaping the Deadlights just like Beverly did and told the tribe about the ritual. This is why you see the tribe knowing about the ritual in the other timelines, which are the Muschietti films and the novel. And this is exactly how knowledge spreads across timelines in the Dark Tower cosmology. So remember, Muschietti directed both It chapters and Welcome to Derry, and a point was made to show the ritual in the movies, and a choice was made not to mention the ritual in It Welcome to Derry, but they made sure to show us the ritual in action having nothing to do with the natives. It wasn't the return route that Rose gave to Halloran because he went into Pennywise's mind on the airplane. And that's what made Leroy suggest him doing that again. So in my theory, Halloran is the originator of the ritual of Chud. And my last bit of evidence is outside of It Welcome to Derry. It's in the show Castle Rock, which is another Stephen King adaptation that's connected to Welcome to Derry and The Shining. It's also connected to Shawshank Redemption, Cujo, and a bunch of other things. I'm not going to spoil too much or get too much into the details of it. I want you to go check it out. But Castle Rock is a town where Shawshank Prison sits, and that's not far from Derry at all. And this show reveals an occurrence of multiple timelines, and it's centered around a character played by Bill Skarsgård called The Kid. And I think The Kid is an actual reincarnation of Bob Gray. But I'm not going to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. But I will say this, go watch Castle Hill now that you've seen this video. And my theory will not only make sense, it'll be hard to unsee. This logic is 100% consistent with King's Tower cosmology. And nothing in this theory contradicts anything in the show, the movie, or the novels. And I hope you like this video. Go ahead and do all that dope YouTube stuff for me to help the channel grow. Share this video to someone who watches the show. And that's all for my video this evening. I'll catch you in the next one.